Hey guys, Argent here with a long-awaited character profile of Jiraiya, aka Jiraiya the Gallant. Probably my favorite Naruto character, by far I'd say. Jiraiya is possibly the most complex character in this series. He has a lot of very negative traits and a lot of very positive traits. And we're often left wondering where the real Jiraiya lies. Is he really as perverted as he seems to be? Is he really as much of an alcoholic as he seems to be? How responsible or irresponsible he is? Because the mask he puts on to the world is very different from how he feels deep down inside. And we can see this a number of times. I guess to really talk about Jiraiya, we just have to go over his life. So I hadn't been able to really find much about his early life. I can assume he was probably an orphan, etc. On the team he was placed on along with Orochimaru and Tsunade. He was kind of the odd man out, the Naruto, if you will. He had a lot of trouble getting strong. Tsunade had her Senju blood and the aid of her clan to give her super training and get strong really quickly. Orochimaru is a natural genius who never really had to work hard for anything. But Jiraiya had to work super hard. And despite the fact that his teammates are both rather sullen, he was kind of the happy one on the team. He was the one who tried to encourage everyone else. He was really kind of the heart and the center of the team. And this kind of continued even throughout the, I think it was the second Great Shinobi World War, where he never really lost kind of that childlike innocence to him, even as he became a killing machine. Around this time in his life, I think kind of the defining moment for him was when Tsunade turned him down repeatedly and almost killed him. Jiraiya, I do believe, truly loves Tsunade. In fact, when he's dying, he lists that as one of the fundamental failures and regrets of his life, that he could never win the affection of the woman he loved. So someone suggested that perhaps his alcoholism and his womanization is in part inspired by the fact that he was never able to win the heart of the one woman he could never have, the one woman that he truly and deeply loved, and that he tried to kind of find what he was missing in the arms of all the various women he had affairs with over the years. And I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. I think if Tsunade had have given him a chance, he would have been faithful to her. I think if they had have gotten married, he would have probably given up his luxury. He probably still would have leered at women and done stuff like that, but I don't think he would have been actively unfaithful to her. Because I do get the impression that he deeply loves her. And a lot of the kind of the antagonism between the two, I think, is Jiraiya's bitterness and depression that he was never able to win the woman that he loves. So we had that happen. So we had the three Sennin basically become the dominant force towards Konoha's victory in the Second Great Ninja World War, in which the defining battle was when the three who would come to be called Sannin faced down Hanzo of the Salamander, the leader of Hidden Rain Village, and Jiraiya faced him down, and they succeeded in surviving wave after wave of enemy attackers. And Hanzo allowed them to go on the condition that he be allowed to name them the Sannin, or the three great legendary ninjas, I think is what it means. And it was a title Jiraiya would carry with pride for the rest of his life, becoming known as the Toad Sannin, or Toad Sage. After the battle, he found three orphans, and he would take a year of his time to train them. Among them was, of course, Nagato Uzumaki, a name that sounds very similar to Naruto Uzumaki. As Nagato possessed the Rinnegan, Jiraiya believed that he was the foretold Messiah who would come to save the world. And Jiraiya focused greatly on attempting to prepare him for his role as a Messiah. However, Jiraiya was, of course, called back to Konoha, and was unable to see them through to their destiny. How Jiraiya feels about this part of his life, I'm not entirely sure. I think he's proud then a war fraught with death, he was able to bring something good out of it. What he says to Nagato, which really, I think, was the defining thing in Nagato's life, was that pain, pain is part of growing up, as it teaches you to have compassion and it teaches you to understand others. Which Nagato took the wrong way and saw it as his duty to bring enough pain to the world so that they would become eternally at peace. But I think it does say something about Jiraiya. I think in his case, he was probably referring to himself. And that he had kind of, even if he didn't superficially grow up, he had kind of grown up through the rejection by Tsunade and through the experience of the Third Ninja World War. So even though he acts less mature than the others, it's important to note that of the three Sannin, he was the only one who was continually loyal to Konoha and was continually serving her throughout his time. Both as an active duty shinobi, as the leader of Konohana's spy network, and even dying a horrible death to try and ensure the survival of his village. And he did all of that really without question, and did all that really without any sort of hesitation, especially when it came to sacrificing his own life. Despite his personal failures, he truly did embody the will of fire, more so than just about any other character in the series, other than Naruto. Actually, it'd be interesting to see what Jiraiya would be like if Tsunade had have returned his affections. He could have become like Naruto. But shortly after that, he came across Minato, Namikaze, and I think he saw in Minato a son figure. Now, there is a theory, fan theory, which of course is not canon, but I kind of consider canon because it makes a lot of things make more sense, that Minato is the son of him and Tsunade, that they had an affair, a very, very brief affair, and Tsunade got pregnant, and that Minato is their secret son. This would make sense, as it would explain kind of the fact that the grandfatherly connection between him and Naruto, his focus on training Minato, and just their extremely close relationship. Also, why Minato has blonde hair when there's so few blonde people, that where it could come, who could potentially have given birth to him. It would also help to explain some of Tsunade's bitterness, particularly over Minato's death. So he trained him very well, and it was during this time period, dealing with Minato, that Jiraiya began to have hope again. So he wrote his first book, The Tale of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi, which was kind of a composite character of himself, Nagato, and Minato. And he wrote it about a character named Naruto, who basically was the chosen one and brought lasting peace to the ninja world, and was able to end a lot of the constant violence and warfare. And Minato took all of Jiraiya's views on peace to heart, and he wanted to work towards Jiraiya's dream. And Jiraiya began to believe that Minato was kind of might have been the Messiah. So he named his son Naruto after the book, and wished that his son, even if he could not fulfill it, would be the chosen one who would save the world. So Jiraiya, it's one of the flashback scenes before his death. One of his fondest memories was when Minato and Kushina announced that to him. It's interesting, and I consider his death scene to be one of the greatest scenes in any anime. I will confess I cried like a baby. It was just so well done. Particularly all his flashbacks. And that's kind of what I'm going through here when I talk about his past. Kind of the flashbacks he had at the end of his life. The things that he was the most aware of. So he finally met Naruto, and he wasn't really sure what to make of Naruto. By this point in time, Jiraiya, we kind of get the impression of a cynical old man. Both of his adopted sons had died, or at least he assumed that Nagato had died. He couldn't win the love of the woman he loved. He couldn't save his best friend Orochimaru from falling to the darkness. He couldn't save his mentor, the third Hokage, from dying. And despite all his decades long of effort, it seemed like Konoha was in a very bad position in the long term. And that he was kind of getting old and he was losing his ability to turn wars by himself. And when he met Naruto, he found this kind of stupid, petulant child that he didn't really know what to make of. But over time, he came to respect Naruto's attitude of never giving up. And I think it rekindled his will of fire that had long since kind of become just ashes. And we see Jiraiya starting to come to life once again, becoming less cynical, and really kind of taking a fatherly role with Naruto. Naruto kind of became the son and the grandson that he would never have. So eventually he was able to impart Naruto most of what he knew, including Sage Mode, the Rasengan, but most importantly his kind of philosophy. One of the memories from before his death was when Naruto said, I will never take back my word and never give up. That is my way of the ninja. And Jiraiya remembers this, and it gives him the strength to do one final last action in defense of his village on behalf of his adopted son. As he states, a ninja inherits his way of the ninja from his master. And if Naruto got that message from training under me, I have no right to give up or complain. So then we kind of come to the end of Jiraiya's life, his final mission. Realizing that he's getting old and that he doesn't really have a place among the new generation anymore, that he'll never win Tsunade's love, and that his adopted son is now a great hero in his own right and doesn't need him anymore. Jiraiya undertakes a suicide mission to go scout out Pain, the leader of the Akatsuki, and to try to figure out his secret and to try and gather intel on him. So he goes there, and we really see that, in my view, Jiraiya is by far the strongest of the three Sannin. Generally speaking, when he loses, it's not because he actually lost, it's because they drug him or because there's something he couldn't have possibly known. But he beats Konin and even Nagato with relative ease. He kills several of the paths of Pain. What ultimately screws him over is he has no idea how the Rinnegan works, and he has no idea that Pain can revive people that he's killed. And there was really no way of him knowing that, and he kind of gets surprise attacks and loses an arm and just gets the crap kicked out of him. Even with one arm, though, he continues to put up a truly impressive fight. And we see that Jiraiya is just immensely strong. But rather than when he gets the chance to escape, he decides to fight on and try to figure out Pain's secret. Eventually finding out that Pain is actually Nagato, and that Nagato actually has six bodies that are the paths of Pain. So Jiraiya gets stabbed repeatedly and is basically clinically dies, but then he has a series of flashbacks, believing that his entire life is a series of failures, that he couldn't be with the woman that he loved, that he couldn't save his best friend, that he couldn't save his student, couldn't save his mentor, and that he couldn't even beat Nagato and kind of right a wrong that he had unleashed upon the world. But then he has a flashback of writing the book about Naruto and his student, who he probably loved the most of anyone in his life, telling him he was going to name his son after him. And then he has flashbacks of training with Naruto, and he realizes that he can never give up, because that is the will of fire. That is what he passed on to his student. So Jiraiya ostensibly forces himself back to life with his own will, and is able to write "The real one is not among them" on the back of one of the two toads, which gives Naruto the ability to beat Nagato later, and ensures Konoha survives its darkest hour when the city literally gets destroyed, and enables Naruto to bring everybody back from the dead, and basically results in a total victory. So his death had meaning. After that, Jiraiya falls into the ocean, and as he drowns and the weights of pressure crush him, He dies with a smile on his face, realizing at long last that he had trained the Messiah and that his life did have meaning. It wasn't a series of failures. All the things that he did impacted the people around him and put in place the things that would lead to a better world, in particular Naruto. And he gave all of his dreams and his will of fire to Naruto, and that's kind of what the will of fire is. It's the belief in the better world, the belief in better peace, the belief in that the future can be something better. And it's the willingness to fight and die for that, and the willingness to never give up in pursuit of it. And he realized that he had passed that on to Naruto, and he had prepared kind of the Messiah, more or less. He almost kind of has like a Joseph-like quality to him. He had trained the right person in the right place at the right time, and he had accomplished something, basically what he always wanted, which was to bring peace and to build a better world. And so Jiraiya dies happy, knowing that he had served to his last breath. And this kind of, I talk about this instead of his perversion, etc., because I think that was the real core of the man. I think to a certain extent the perversion and his other fallings were a result of just decades of violence, war, and cynicism. But in his core, I think Jiraiya ultimately was an idealist who did want peace above all other things. So that is the tale of Jiraiya the Gallant, my favorite Naruto character. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Argent signing out.